Right. Okay, so finally wired up the winch, and it was a much bigger project than I thought it was going to be. So if you come in here, Ange, this is where I have the controller down here on a bracket, and I have removed the power cables, so the negative and the positive, and we're using this 70mm squared sheathed insulated welding cable. So we got 12 meters of that. We probably used about 8 on this. So I've removed the battery cable that came with the winch. I've run this into the control box all the way back to the battery. So that goes all the way to here, the positive, and that is a heavy duty rated for 500 amps cutoff switch. So that's it off. Then there's another shorter lead, same cable, that runs from here to positive terminal on the battery. So that means when I get out of the truck and I want the winch to be active, all I've got to do is reach under there, turn it on, and then we've got power to the winch, because there's no actual switch on the winch. And then the other big orange cable ran all the way to my negative post on the other battery. Today I actually use blowtorch that comes out of the end of the soldering iron, so that's a really cool feature for the heat shrink. This is the heat shrink I've been using the whole time, so it's dual wall, there's glue inside. That's kind of like the best one I can find, so that's what I've used for this whole winch setup. So that's the good stuff there. And then the hydraulic crimper that I showed didn't work well at all, and that kind of broke me at the end of the day yesterday, because we had it all set up and then just adjusted a few things and the terminal pulled right out of the control box, which took so long to do in the first place. So this time I've used just good old-fashioned vice grips, and it's done a much better job. So that's not actually the cutoff switch that came with the winch. The one that came off the winch I don't think is rated high enough, so we went for this one, which is 500 amps continuous, and that was suggested by people on YouTube, so thank you very much for that. So good to know, because I wouldn't have known that, and then the winch would have stopped working. I would have had no idea why. I wouldn't have thought to look at the cutoff switch, so thank you very much for that. I will probably rewire the 3 control cables that go to the motor. I've only extended them a very short amount, so I don't think we're going to get much loss there. But as a lot of you said, that copper, even though it's in that really high quality heat shrink, maybe it'll corrode. So I'll end up replacing them, and that'll be a bit easier, because this really thick cable is actually pretty hard to work with. It just doesn't bend, whereas this smaller diameter cable is much easier. So I just need to get a few bits and pieces for that, and I'll rewire those. But yeah, I'm really happy with that. So now I've just got to test the winch out, maybe pull a tree down, or I don't know, purposely get stuck. Yeah, so we're gonna bolt it all back together, and that's us done for our Saturday. You ready?
There we go.
Weird color, mate.
It's so yellow. It's disturbing. Oh no. Be careful.
I really gotta go, Ange. Really gotta go. Hold the bucket.
I'm busting. Lid. That's one bucket down. Bucket number 3. So what are you doing right now?
So I'm putting labels on the fuel lines, so otherwise it's going to get confusing for me. So I'm putting left and right. One is return, one is the sender. So that one's right, that one's left. Then we've got electrical cable and another one which is probably a breather, I guess. So I'll put a B on it.
Not much room over there.
It's a lot easier if we had done this before the box was on, but I've been putting it off for a while now. Okay, so that should stop some of the air going in, at least. Doesn't want to come off.
It's just one left.
Just one.
Always one. So everything is disconnected at the top. And now...
Looks a bit like maybe an 18.
So what's the next step?
No, maybe a 19. I'm gonna, because these are straps, so I just need to unhook them there, and then we can pull the fuel tank off rather than me taking the brackets off. Because I don't think I need to take the brackets off. I'll have a look behind there, but I might get a can of spray paint, touch it up a little bit. I have a funny feeling, judging by the rest of the truck, there'll be no rust there. So it had actually been glued on.
Oh.
Well, there's the original colour of this. It's picking the fuel tank out of yeah, it is.
The jack is has fallen.
It's okay.
Yeah. Let you out on this one. One more.
Over it. Bend it. Up, over. Quick. Nice.
Oh my god. He's such a mess.
Our trusty fish gutting table has come in handy for us once again. So that was kind of stuck down. That's why that was hard to remove. So that'll need just to be cleaned up.
Okay.
No rust. No rust at all. Just needs a little paint job. We can get to that now too. So it's actually worked out really well. Really well. Oh dear, run. Jump on.
Ta-da! Come on, now.
You grab one end.
Oh, so shit.
You alright?
Yeah.
Nice.
Should be a bit lighter than me.
Can you hold it?
That was a fun little mission. Yeah, we just decided to get the fuel tank inside because it's raining on and off. It's very weird weather. So at least now there won't be any water going in the tank when we're gonna open it and continuing to empty it. So yeah, that's the plan now. Wow. Is that the fuel gauge?
It is.
Whew.
which looks new.
Yeah, it looks really good condition for a very old truck.
Yeah, that's definitely not the original, hey? So that's a float. So this is the pickup. That, you know, as the fuel fills up, or the diesel fills up, this comes up until it's full. And that sends a signal up the chain, negative, positive cable, through to the dash. So my guess now is that our issue with the fuel gauge not being correct is an electrical issue further up the line. I thought it might have been something wrong with this. I have a funny feeling this tank is in really good condition and we don't need to be doing this. So, but I'd rather it that way than the other way around.
Yeah, for sure. Hello. Any rust inside? Let's see if you
It's baffled. Okay. Now there is a little bit of grot. Just need to find out what that is. It's just like a little bit of dirt.
It looks black. Alright, so we're gonna empty the rest of the tank straight into this bucket just to remove that dirt at the bottom. Are you pretty happy with the condition of it? Yeah, perfect.
Much coming out?
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit of crud, but it's really not much, hey?
I'll show. This is what is at the bottom of the bucket.
Not much. So really good unexpected result. The tank is definitely not the original. Like all the galvanizing and stuff on the inside, that nice coating's still there. I've checked to make sure there's no like algae. That was my biggest concern, was that there might be algae which lives on diesel. So there's none of that, so I don't have to clean the entire fuel system. The reason I wanted to do this is I've heard that these tanks can just be absolute rust buckets at the bottom, or filled with algae, and they'll end up clogging your lines if you go off-roading and shake it all up. This is really clean, so that's awesome. So there's a few little metallic particles in the bottom. Clearly some sort of rusting is happening, maybe where we can't see it. There's two baffles that run this way, the whole height of the tank. So it might be on the other side of that or somewhere along those lines. We'll just make sure that we never store this tank empty, because that's obviously when the rust will form. But what we'll do to combat any rust that we do have is we bought this stuff. It was $95, so it wasn't cheap. Got that from Super Cheap Auto, Evapo-Rust, which I've heard really good things about. And the thing I like about it is it's pretty much non-toxic, so it's biodegradable. So gonna fill this up and, well, not fill it up, but fill up the bottom as much as we can and leave it overnight. And then we need to basically turn it over and do another side of it. So it's gonna probably take a few days to hit all the areas. Once that's done, we'll get high pressure hose in, smash it with the high pressure hose, make sure all the water has evaporated, and then fill it back with diesel, connect it all up, and then I need to search elsewhere for why the fuel sender unit doesn't work. So just gave it a sand, because this is where the straps were that held the fuel tank in place. The only area of rust was right here, and it's not very bad. So I got rid of it with a couple of sanders, and now just using some rust converter. So do that, and then we'll paint it. And at the moment it's soaking in the 5 litres of that rust treatment inside as well. So killing 2 birds with 1 stone here. So another project for us for this week will be doing the hatches and the hardware for the hatches. So we've got all the seals and the hinges all sorted. It's more just the actual hardware to open the actual hatch. So we had bought these quite a long time ago, and they're like your standard push button. They look pretty sturdy, like so. I thought these would work really well, but the extrusion we're using, the way it works, so if you could imagine on this edge here would be a rubber seal. This is the inside of the box. Obviously this would be the actual hatch itself, the hatch door. That fits like so, with the rubber seal there, so that clamps. So we need some sort of contraption which clamps to this side. Now, we've found out this doesn't work because I can't get it far enough this way without the arm hitting the extrusion on the inside. So I'd end up having to cut a big, great, ugly hole just to be able to move the hatch face that way, the catch. So we've decided against using this. We're going to try and return these because we bought a bunch and they're actually surprisingly expensive. Like, how much each were they?
Like $45 each.
And we've bought 4 of them. So it's kind of annoying. So 2 for each hatch. So what we've decided to go instead is a T cam locking style. The reason we didn't go with that for the first place is we're buying them from Styromax again in Queensland. We wanted to try and find something that was local, just so in case, you know, we wanted to return it or something, it'd be easier. So yeah, but it hasn't actually worked in our favour this time. Gross. Can you hold the yellow thing, please? Bit of rust in there. Not too bad though.
All right, inspection of the tank.
Yeah, don't know if you can. Looking pretty good. Yeah, there's still a little bit of that stuff left over. We'll smash with water, but there's not a lot bad in there at all.
All right, so now the fuel tank is completely dry. Chris used a heat gun just to make sure that all the water was completely evaporated before we put it back. And this is what he did yesterday. Looks so much better now. One down, second one, up, okay. Nice.
Awesome, that was pretty easy. And just farmer's carry for the day. Oh, go Ange.
Bucket number 2.
There's 40 litres of diesel right there. Go Ange. Look at that form. No fuel, come on.
So step number 1 is clamping our hatch.
So we're using the gasket that goes on the back of the lock as a template. We used the drill press to make the main holes. I'll need to drill those out a little bit further so that I can countersink that part of the lock-in. And then I'm using a Dremel tool with a plastic cutting blade that I'll chop around the gasket once I pull it away, the mark I made rather. And then I'm also using a little sanding disc type of arrangement to get the corners and the radiuses right. And that is also really good at chewing away at the XPS foam underneath the fiberglass. But yeah, Dremel tool's pretty neat. Super like precise, like a surgeon.
All right, so we are back for another day. Chris has successfully done the first hatch, so I'm gonna make him a coffee to celebrate.
A reward.
The best kind of reward. A nice coffee. We agitate the coffee. Do you want to show us the result?
Ta-da! So it's the outside. It's a compression T-handle. So the key is in the actual handle itself. And then the other side looks like that. And then when it closes, it actually adds compression as well.
Oh, looks amazing.
Adjustable compression. Yeah, I'm super happy with them. Really glad that we changed from those other ones we had bought.
So these handles, they came as well from Styromax. We initially wanted to find, as Chris said, something locally, but we gave up. This is a much better option. It was actually surprisingly pretty easy. I mean, we should have done that since the beginning, but that's all right. We're really happy. So they are Takigen handles, so they come from Japan, really good quality. They look really heavy duty, so very happy with that.
Very happy. Then we need to do the hinges and the seal, and they'll be ready to install.
But first,
Coffee.
coffee.
All right, so fuel tank is all sorted. So really happy with that. Turned out to be a really simple job. We've filled it back up with the 60 litres of diesel that we had left over from before. And the only difference I've made now is I've plumbed it into another filter, which has a water separator, because I want to be able to get any water that may end up in that tank out of the system so it doesn't stuff the engine. So we've got one filter here, two main fuel filters that are standard with the truck, and another glass vial filter which is really easy to replace and easy to inspect. So there's 4 filters in our diesel system now.
So as a lot of you suggested in the previous video, we need a cover for the winch to protect it from the UV. So this is a temporary one. As you can see, it's a bit tight. So we'll definitely need something a bit bigger there. And we had as well a few questions on the previous video that I've asked Chris to answer here so that you get the answer and everybody can as well get the information. So the first question was, why electric and not hydraulic?
So first of all, a lot of you would have seen Unimogs with this big fat PTO winch on the front. We chose to get a Unimog that didn't have that because I always knew I would just have pulled that PTO winch off anyway. Few reasons. The PTO drive sits in a position that I would need to have removed if we want to put an overdrive unit in. Second of all, the PTO is known to be pretty good at pulling other vehicles out, but not really rated to the standard to reliably pull the actual Mog out itself. So the other thing I've also seen with them is that they often break mounts and you'll end up, your PTA will fly against a tree. So yeah, so that's the main reason we didn't go off that big stock standard PTO winch, as well as the fact that it sits out to about here. So it sits out a really long way and it's butt ugly kind of thing. Now, hydraulic winches are by far the strongest, and they're the best in terms of you can basically pull all day and it will run off the engine, so it won't overheat. But the benefit of an electric winch, first of all, the actual running speed as you're winching is a lot faster on an electric than a hydraulic winch. Two, much easier to install. So if I'd sorted a hydraulic winch out, that would have taken me a really long time to work out how to plumb that whole thing in.
Oh my God.
Whereas this is literally just the cabling enough, took me long enough, and that's just to go to the batteries. Third, if your engine and there's something wrong with it, I don't know, you've flooded it, it's stalled, you cannot operate your winch. At least with an electric winch, much more simple of a design, you just need 24 volts for this one, or 12 volts for your usual electric winch, and it will run. Downside of that being, can only really run this for about a minute before you would want to cool it down for a few minutes before running it again. A hydraulic winch, you wouldn't need to worry about that so much. But yeah, we chose electric for that very reason.
And the second question is, why did we choose this model of Runva Winch and not another brand?
So 20,000 pounds is a really good winch capacity for a vehicle this size. And bear in mind, anytime I use that winch, I'm going to make sure I use a snatch block or a pulley block, which will double the pull and half the strain on the actual winch. So 20,000 pounds is going to be ample, it'll be easy enough. I think by the time everything is all loaded up, we won't be pushing 10 ton is my guess. So I really think this will be absolutely fine. The reason we went with Runva as a brand is they've been around for a really long time. So I've heard of a lot of people having really good reviews of a winch that they've been using for years and years and years on their vehicle with no issues whatsoever. The only other brand that I considered was one called Sherpa, but I heard their customer service was quite poor and a few other kind of negatives. And I really just prefer the Runva. It's also what quite a few expedition trucks are already running, so they're a really, really good brand. And bear in mind, there's not a huge amount of options when it comes to something that's 20,000 pounds or higher in terms of output.
So if you like this kind of question answer at the end of the video, don't hesitate to put your question at the end. I'll select a few and Chris will reply as well next week. As you can see, the hatch behind us is now gone. That would be...
It's gone. Well, someone stole it.
No, please give it back. No, that will be a project for next week. So you'll be able to see that, and as well a few sneak peek. Ta-da-da.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, we won't tell too much. But yeah, that's the end of this video. We hope you like this new episode, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks so much for watching, guys, and cheers for the support. See you next week.